Welcome to Soul Food Book Club. We come together every week to discuss something that has been put into words that's inspiring us, motivating us, and something that most of the time takes us for a deeper dive into ourselves and who we are and what we're doing here on this planet. We are so happy at this time to be looking at our Aunt Mary Lou's first book, Rhyming Reflections and Inspired Intentions. We can't see into the book. Hey, Lou, do you have one you can hold up? They're all disappearing into the background. All right, we got scenes up there. It's an amazing book, and this will be our last week on this book. I'm kind of sad that it's our last week, but we are moving forward. And we right now today is our beautiful family, Auntie Jean in Texas.
Hi, everyone.
Stacy Lord in Florida.
Hello.
Grace Isis in New York. And the woman of the hour, Aunt Mary Lou Burdick in Massachusetts.
Thank you for having me.
We have loved working with you on this book and delving into it and sharing what we are experiencing from it and having you bless us with your knowledge and your inspiration. So, Mary Lou, I think you might be prepared to do something with us today. Am I correct in that?
Well, just sharing some thoughts. Did you want me to do the questions and answers? I have them in the other room. Of course, you
let's do it. I love the idea. We were talking last week because
while you tell them what it is.
Okay. Yeah, last week we just had a private meeting on Zoom. We didn't go live on the book club. And Mary Lou has an idea, and it's an icebreaker. So we are all going to participate in doing this. So Grace Isis, you're going to have to unmute while you play the game with us. And when Mary Lou comes in, then she's going to guide us through that. And I'm excited. So here she is.
Hello. So I'm hoping at some point with this book to bring it to places where people are already in a place where they want to discuss. And I've been, giving some thought to that. And I'm thinking of places like we have a center here in our area called the Elizabeth Freeman Center, where women go. It's a first step to being able to change their life. If they've been in a bad marriage situation or they're threatened in any way by anyone, they can go to this center. And I thought, it would be a nice opportunity for them to talk about where they're feeling that day at that moment in their time. So, that's one of my hopes, is to do that. And I don't know if everyone is the same as this wonderful book club that we meet with, because we're very comfortable, I think, asking each other questions and coming up with our own unique answers and all of that. But I'm not sure if somebody, like myself, that would go in and they don't know me that well yet, would be comfortable asking some of the questions that are in the book. So I found this little game, and there's questions and there's answers. And so you play it a little differently, I think, on a Zoom, but it's still fun. I have to kind of be more in charge of it than I would be. It would be much more interactive in a gathering setting. But the way that we did it last time was you picked a number. And we picked number 1 through 5 last time. So let's do, 5 through 10 this time. And I'll just match up the questions to the same number you choose, or you could choose another number. And that number, just choose any number. That one could be random from 1 to 24. Okay, for the answers. And so who would like to start by choosing a question and an answer? Oh, one more thing I wanted to say. You're deciding who's going to be. Stacey, you can be first. I forgot one more thing, that these question and answers are not typical. These question and answers are intended to help you think about it and to know that sometimes you get unexpected answers, and they might give you pause, or they might make you laugh, just like life. Okay, Stace.
All right, so I pick whatever number I pick is the number of the question.
Yes. No. First, you pick a number for the question, and then a number for the answer.
Okay, and at 1 through 24, you said?
Yeah. For the questions, because we already did some. Why don't you start with number 5?
Okay, I was thinking 7.
7. Okay. Here's the question. Would you like to find yourself in a harem?
Oh. And now I pick the answer.
And now you pick, any number.
12.
Okay. The answer is, it's my life's work.
Well, you found something out about me today.
Full disclosure.
That's cute. Yes. Okay.
Go ahead and pick a number, Auntie Jean.
8.
8. Okay, the question is, do you behave, oh, this is a good one. Do you behave decently while you're drunk?
Now, I have been drunk once.
And how did you behave?
You've got to pick the
I
answer.
had a really good
You don't have to
time
tell
while
us.
I was
You
drunk.
can just pick an answer. You can just pick an answer.
Okay, let me see, 13.
13. And if you were number 13, it says, and this is true, you said, by no means.
That sounds like me,
I
but
believe it. Grace Isis, what number would you like to pick for the question?
I'll pick 7.
All right. Oops. I'm looking at the oh, Stacy picked 7. Do you want to be in a harem too?
I'll pick another. I didn't hear that.
Going
I had
Stacy.
behind you. Okay, I'll pick 10.
Okay.
Please.
Grace Isis, are you able to love?
Oh boy, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
I can answer that. Yes, yes.
Oh yeah,
You are love. I
Gotta pick a number for the answer.
I'm going to pick 20.
20.
If you have.
According to the person that wrote these questions, it says, I'll do it if you will do it.
Aw.
That's a good one.
Yes. Nice.
How about you, Teri? What numbers are you feeling today?
Go with number 5. 5 for change.
Okay. 5 question is, do you like music?
Awesome.
Okay, I'll go with number 24.
Okay. It is quite necessary on Saturday.
Yes, it is. And Sunday and Monday and Tuesday.
Exactly.
It's quite necessary when Auntie Jean has her drinks and I'm in my harem.
A good time.
And when Grace Isis is feeling the love.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the audience want to play? We have Isabel saying hello to us.
Oh, maybe Isabel would pick a question. Hi.
Isabel, do you want to pick a question between, what is it, Mirlu? 5
and 24.
5 and 24 for a question. And then pick the answer to the question with the numbers 1 through 24. And we'll see.
And while she's doing it, I'll pick one. And I'll do it random, I promise.
Oh, okay. So you're going to do it for her. All right, Isabel, you're in for a treat.
Do you love me? Number 16.
Aw.
Aw.
And I I picked number 16 for the answer, and it says to while away the time. Like that.
Oh, she wanted number 22.
Okay, question number 22. Here you go, Isabel. Do you often visit restaurants?
The answer is number 2.
And the answer is, if it is cold outdoors.
That makes
Not picnic season. I go to
Yeah, right. That was fun, Mary Lou. Thank you.
That was
Thank you.
fun.
I'm thankful that I found it, on a Google search, looking for
Yeah.
something to help people feel comfortable, at a group gathering.
Well, Mary Lou, I think we need to turn it to you. Pick a question.
Okay.
I need some more volume here.
I did pick a question.
For
Did she
yourself?
Yes, I picked a question. It was, do you love me?
Oh, I thought that was for Isabel.
No. Her question was, do you eat in a restaurant?
Oh,
Yes, my question was, do you love me? And the answer was to while away the time.
okay. Awesome.
I
Yeah,
thought you were going to ask me a serious author question when you said that.
No, well, Isabel had chosen question number 22, so I thought that was
Okay.
what you were
Yeah,
doing,
it was
but
a
that
little
was for you.
it was a little disconnect because you were playing facilitator there instead of
Yeah.
participating.
Right.
It
But
happens.
Isabel says we need to laugh, and yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
me too.
That's a good point too, Isabel, is that, laughter does help us feel comfortable, doesn't it? Yeah, with one another.
Raises the vibration.
Yes. You teach us that all the time, Teri.
Mhm.
I have some more exciting news. Right before we came on, I got this letter in the mail from our local library, the Berkshire
Oh, okay.
and it says, Dear Mrs. Burdick, the Berkshire Athenaeum acknowledges with many thanks the kind gift of your book, Rhyming Reflections and Inspired Intentions. We are very pleased to be able to add this to the local history collection. Most certainly, your efforts and generosity will benefit many future researchers who visit the Berkshire Athenaeum. Again, your thoughtfulness and generosity in making this available is greatly appreciated. By Lenora, Supervisor, Local History and Genealogy Department. Isn't that
Love it.
fascinating?
Congratulations.
Oh,
Thank you. But you know what? Even more than, about me, it's like you had mentioned it, Teri, and one other person that I had shared the book with said, now your thoughts are out there for the world to come. And I didn't think of that as an author before I started putting things down. You don't think about it in those terms until someone expresses it to you. And it makes me so grateful, that maybe somebody, even years later after I'm gone, will benefit from this.
yes, definitely.
It was very interesting to get that affirmation.
I think that is beautiful. So happy for you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
awesome.
It makes it real.
Mhm. It sure does. It sure does. Well, Mary Lou, I came prepared last week with a question for you and a poem that I wanted to discuss. So if it's okay with everybody, I will go first in the discussion about her book. And let me just get to it. It's called The Perfect Stranger. And I want to read the poem. She's a stranger to me, always will be. Not good enough in her sight. No middle line, just black and white. No room for mistakes or time to change. Locked in the dark, never feeling pain. Nothing to lose, yet never to gain. A stranger she'll stay. That's not my way. She's perfect. And I was reading this poem, Mary Lou, and the questions that you were asking about, what does perfect mean to you? And do you consider being perfect a goal to strive for? And then questions about failure, because when we start thinking about perfection, of course, the opposite of perfect, is going to be failure, because perfect is different for everybody. But when we hold that image of perfect, then, we're going to always find something that wasn't perfect about it. My question to you, I would love to hear if you can remember what your thoughts were as you wrote those words down, and how has that changed for you now? I don't know how long ago you wrote it, but has your idea of this perfect vision, has that changed over the years?
Absolutely changed. In many ways. I think as a young woman, which I was probably in my early 30s or my early or late 30s, that was around my time frame of writing the majority of these. I did strive. I did care. In the book, there's another book poem, The People Pleaser, and I did strive in my life to always be better than how I perceived myself. I always wanted to improve, and I'm sure there was an element of not loving myself the way I was and accepting myself for the way I was. And I think it's just part of the journey of maturing, not to be too hard on myself with that at this stage, but I don't know if everybody has that. I know I've known people that are confident individuals from the time they're very young. And I think many times along with that confidence comes that sense that they need to be perfect, and they're not happy at all with themselves when they're not. I don't think I was ever at that degree of needing to be perfect, but I recognized within myself that if you really want to be content within yourself and peaceful within yourself, you need to accept that perfection is not it's not attainable. I don't believe in this world, because there's always room for error, and our mistakes, often our failures, often lead us along a path that we were meant to be, we were meant to take. And so that's very acceptable to have failures. So there's a poem that I remember my sister used to love, that success is failure turned inside out. And some people relate success to perfection. And I've known people that are so beautiful, physically beautiful, and they strive to always, present 100% with the nail polish and the eyebrows shaping, how they do that. I did it too. Back in the day, we plucked our eyebrows to make them look awesome, and I always warned my two daughters, be careful with plucking, because they might not grow back in as you age. So they're lucky in this generation that they're enhancing them rather than plucking. But there's things that we do to improve ourselves. And I'm not saying that isn't a good thing. We should present every day as best we can. But I've known people that, they're already fascinatingly beautiful, and yet they're not content within themselves. They're always doing one more thing. And I think it comes from a sense of discontentment, and I think that you can get locked up in a darkness with that. You can just not talk to anybody about it, not talk to about your feelings of what's really happening inside of you. And so to me, that's a little bit what that poem was about, and how I've grown to understand. I think I was beginning to understand at that time in my life, and now I've come to a real contentment and peacefulness. And it's not to say that we shouldn't strive for perfection, because I think we always need to do the best we can every day, but to allow that intention and that desire to be the best that we can that day. That's still a good thing to do, to try to attain for it, but to know that It's okay if you don't. We're not made to be perfect. It was a religious friend of mine who's very spiritual, once said, I'm going to be perfect maybe 10 minutes after I'm dead. When I'm in heaven, when I'm in paradise, that's when we're all going to be that perfect being. We'll receive full likeness of God. In the meantime, we try. We say, I am. We say, I want to be, and we keep striving, but we're not really going to be yet. Not, and I don't believe anyway, in this world, we're not going to be.
So there was the one line in there that really struck me, not good enough in her sight. And I think that all of us can relate to that at some point in this human experience. And maybe somebody still is that's listening to this, or somebody here on Zoom, not good enough. And if we go deeper and really look at that and find that, yes, we are immaculate, and we're exactly where we're supposed to be, and we're doing what we're supposed to do. So thank you for writing that poem and helping us to do more self-examination about who we are and what we are. Anybody else?
I have a question. I'm loving this book, of course, it's amazing. And for somebody who wants to write a book, how did you do that? When you have a family and other things to do, did you set time aside, or was it so passionate for you that you just went with it all the time? How do you put that in order to fit in with your day-to-day life?
That's the question, isn't it, Stacey? Because we are all busy. And I think an author who writes series and is considered an author by profession perhaps has a disciplined time frame. For me, those poems were written long ago, and I did it as a personal diary, really, as journaling, and a release of my emotions to help myself understand what was going on. And then when the intention and inspiration came to me through being part of this book club, I sat down and I took time to meditate, to be quiet before I even typed a word into the computer. Isn't it awesome that we type nowadays, instead of taking our pen out and writing? I tend to use my laptop to put my thoughts in place now. And that's what I did. And I found myself sometimes waking up at night. And I know people, just, have a pad and they write. But for me, I got up and I got my iPad out and I just put my thoughts down, because I think I do my best thinking when I'm not 100% occupied with my daily duties. And that's when I did a lot of them. But then sometimes in the afternoon, if there was, a football game on that my husband was watching, I just took it out and I'd revise and, rethink some of it. I honestly didn't do an awful lot of revising. I really feel like it was truly inspired when I started writing the questions. In the beginning, I struggled a little bit with how to connect the poem with what my hope was for the world with the reflections, and then I had to, again, go back to meditation and think about, this is not about me and how I'm feeling now so much as how I'd like to help someone else with the questions. So I think you might get a unique answer from anybody that wrote something, but the first most important thing is when you get that thought, just go with it and write it down. Stacey, I think you've got poetry in you. I think you should start writing them down.
I might try, but I can tell that your book was made with pure love and it wasn't rushed. It's just amazing. And my granddaughter was over the weekend and I read it some of your poems to her, and she just so enjoyed it. And then I read her mine, and she said, Grandma, I love it. You need to print it out. So I sent
Good.
it to my husband, and he even made it fancy and printed it out so I could frame it.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So thank you so much for getting me into poetry. Like I said last time, I would have never thought to even, I mean, I love poetry, but I never really thought about doing anything with it. But thank you for inspiring me.
You're welcome, and I'm happy.
I'm going to have a suggestion. Because that's the way I am. That I've been doing when I've been studying the poems now, just for your next book, because I know there's going to be quite a few others, But I liked writing my answers and my intentions on this page that faced the poem. So I could look at the poem and write my thoughts at the same time without having to turn the page.
Yes.
And I thought, I'm going to tell her that for her next book, because I felt so much more comfortable doing it that way.
I know, Jean, it's talking about this perfection situation with Amazon.
Yes.
Sometimes I think that they took it upon themselves to make one change that was major. When Teri and I first did this together, the contents page that lists the poems, the reflection and intention, they were side by side. And so each poem that you looked at, the poem was there and the reflection was next to every single one. However, somehow, in the publishing, it got changed. And I was a little annoyed with it at first, but you know what? It's part of my makeup. It's part of who I am to always look for the good in something.
Sure.
And so I was looking through the book and I thought, well, it's okay. Like this first one, the intention that I have open up to is the poem is the love well, and the intention is be a good listener. And the reflection was for the poem before it. And the intention was bring goodness. So I thought, well, maybe, that might work too. You could bring goodness and be a good listener. But I do understand logistically writing it. I agree with you. I was wishing that it was like that. There's a couple other things, that I noticed, like when, the comments from Teri and my niece and my friend Jerry in the back. It's the second to the last page. Well,
I saw it.
The doves were, when I sent it, the doves were all centered, but somehow they flew over to the left of the page. I can tell, but it's a perfect example of, I mean, I'm not going to sweat.
I see. There was dove.
Yeah. So, I mean, I looked at it and, actually I was at a book reading and signing this week for a classmate of mine that I went to school with. He's a great author. His name is Kevin O'Hara, and he's gone to Ireland, and he wrote 2 books on his trip to Ireland. He has relatives over there, came back from Vietnam, and he's not a military person. He's a lover. And he was traumatized, and he went over to Ireland rather. And he went to Ireland and purchased a donkey from somebody and went all over Ireland in the 70s. And then he wrote a book about it. And his most recent book is Christmas Stories that have been published in our local newspaper for 30 years, every year at Christmas time. And he put a book together with them. And I just had to go to the book signing, and his books are published by a publishing company. And there's not a mistake in any of them, and I thought about that. And you know what, but my whole being is it's okay with me if there's mistakes. I mean, it's my life story in some ways, that I mess up and then I fix it and I move on, so it's okay with me that it's not perfect, and who knows, maybe the next book would be published by a publisher. I didn't really want to wait. I could have waited and I could have made the effort to try to find a publisher, but I had it in me to get this book out now was the right timing for it. So yeah, I agree with you, Jean, that it would have been better. There's always room for improvement for sure, but
well, actually, you had the right idea from what you said. You had the right idea. I just was amazed at the difference it made in me being able to write on the same page.
Yeah, you'll notice in some of them, it does go back to that. There's some pages have two poems on the same page.
Right.
And that's when it started reconnecting again, where you could write your reflection.
Right.
And then I had to make a choice on that level, whether to use half a page for your reflection or give you two separate pages, for each one. So yeah, it takes a lot of planning and a lot of structuring, with it.
Well, and what I said at the beginning is I feel like I'm not exactly using it exactly the way you wanted, or you outlined it to be used, but it's meaningful to me in the way that I'm doing it. And I wanted to talk about this poem. What I did is to be honest with you, I skipped to the end. I wasn't sure how many of you had what you had all covered last week. So I had gotten to a certain point, and instead of continuing there, I went ahead and went to the end because I figured that's where everyone would be right now. And I ran across a couple poems that were really meaningful to me, but kind of in a different way. And one of them, gosh, there were so many that it's hard for me to pick one, but I thought I'd like to discuss, if it's okay with everyone, the one called Faith. And it says, you have a beautiful poem here. It says, a gift to an offspring, one seed so precious, fertilized through the years, a quality enriched with the test of time. This treasure untouched by our pain, it grows within as a tiny spark, ignites a fire into a blazing metamorphosis, jumping and spreading till all around are encompassed in the flames. At times the flickering goes so dim, you fear a spirit lost. Your soul is parched and dry within. All reason fades away, yet with knowledge implanted, the presence of a priceless gift remains. And I thought that was so lovely because faith is like that, that it grows and it grows. And then sometimes, and Teri knows that I think I've been through it. I think we've all been through a crisis at one time where we think, well, we've lost it somehow, somewhere along the line. It went away, but it hasn't. It just needs to be nourished. And that's what I wrote. The Bible describes faith as belief in something with your whole heart, although not seen. You don't see it, but you believe it. You know it exists. And I said, as Mary Lou says, it is like a seed that is planted and grows. The more it is watered and fed, that's the important thing for its growth. The important thing, it has to be watered and fed. And how is that done? It's by taking in knowledge more and more of the divine. And that is the nourishment, that is the food that we get. when we gather together, like in this group and other groups, and we share this love and this spirit, that is like water being poured over our seed of faith that makes it grow. And sometimes if we don't meet together, if we don't continue our meetings and our education, then we start feeling that removal, that maybe we've lost the spirit because we haven't watered it in a long time. And that's what made me think of it when you talked about being dry and parched. We have to water it. And when you think about the people, the friends who we're worried about, a lot of it are the friends who haven't been coming to our meetings, haven't been coming to our classes, and they're not getting watered with the love that we have and the spirit that we have together. And I know that sounds kind of serious, but that's what it made me think of. And it made me examine my own, participation in help build up our others, help build up all of us, because we are a family and we need each other. And that's what gives me the faith, is this family, this loving group of people that love each other unconditionally. And I don't know, I get carried away sometimes, but I love that. I love that. It is a seed that we have to water and keep growing.
I think when I wrote the poem, I remember having a chat with my dad about faith, and he said faith is, because I have many people in my life, and some of them seem to be not needing a higher power in their life, and and they consciously. One person once told me when I was younger, I don't use religious words anymore. They consciously chose not to listen to Christian Christmas carols. They have God, anything that says God or Christ, they made a conscious choice, and it puzzled me, in people that I had been raised very much similar to, that felt that way. And it puzzled me, what was that all about, and because I had my own pain and my own sufferings in my life that had been, I had to work my way through, and I could have lost my faith. I remember a priest saying to me, because in the Catholic Church, when I was raising my kids, most of the people in my generation had stepped away from the organized religion. And I didn't, and I never could understand how come I didn't. What's so great about me, that I am gifted with this faith. And my father said that it is a gift, that when you have faith, if you acknowledge it as a gift, and it's the same thoughts that you were sharing, Jean, it's the same thoughts. Somebody might get a gift from somebody and take it and put it in a drawer, and be appreciative when they get it, but they put it in the drawer and they don't open the drawer. And other people receive a gift and they take it and they wear it, and they keep it close to them, and so that's the same concept of what you were saying, that we need to nurture it. It's very important who we're around, and, what are the words that they choose to use, that and that will affect us. And it's, for me, it's something to be treasured, and I'm grateful for it.
So Mary Lou, and thank you, Mary Lou. Thank you, Auntie Jean. Thank you, Teri. Thank you, Stacy, for being here and sharing this space. And thank you for the question, answering the question that Auntie Jean brought up. And I wanted to ask, in that same vein, when you wrote the poem of faith, was it the same circumstances or energy that trust. The poem Trust came out because trust says, I'll just jump a little bit. It says, if I gave away my temple, that special part called I, would you give back yourself, or would it make us cry? Because you mentioned, what you have went through with even keeping the faith, staying the course because of faith. And he said, if I opened up my heart for all the world to see, would you know me as I am or as you want me to be? And this is such a poignant poem because, and I feel it's very on schedule right now because a lot of us are going through these kind of ponderings because of COVID and what we're going through and the upheavals that are coming. And yes, you could put something out there and it may be conceived and understood awkwardly and differently. If I told you all my thoughts to try and set them free, would you hear the things I voice or take away my choice? It's resonating really. And it's jumped out at me because of the times that we're going through. If I share my soul with you, beginning once again, would you honor my deep need or rob me of a friend? If I gave away my temple, that special part called I, would you give back yourself or would it make us cry? And you have very interesting questions asking us, do we dare to be vulnerable, which you've done, Mary Lou. And also the fact that Teri always tells us that divine is never divine intervention, divine guidance, our purpose, our path is never out of order, is never imperfect. It's all perfect in God's eyes. So even with all these jumping arounds, when we mentioned at the back, the doves, those doves, I saw it as it's starting off with the Mary Lou, the one in the very center. And then it skipped to the side and it was introducing the different perspectives and the different reviews. And this whole book, the fact that you went with the guidance that was given through Teri to a smaller publisher, there is nothing that is out of the ordinary. This is perfect. It's perfect. It's on schedule. So we thank you for listening, stepping up, coming to the edge, and just flying. You didn't fall, you flew. So can you, sorry to go the long way, can you in a snippet tell us whether trust too is also with the faith? Was it the same? I'm sure it's hard to remember if it was in the same moments. And thank you.
Yes, it wasn't the same time frame, but it wasn't the same circumstances. I don't think it had to do with my own faith in our Creator. I think it had more to do with faith in humanity and the people that we interact with. And that there's people that, you can and should trust. And there's other people in life that, you might not want to open up your heart 100% to them. When I wrote the book and I was, it was in the process of being written, I was sharing some thoughts about how I wanted to maybe help others. My hope was in asking questions might help somebody, to go a little deeper that maybe wouldn't think to do that without a group or without guidance. And one of my friends said, well, you better do it. You better do it with people that care about you, because you might not get, a good response. And I thought, oh my goodness, that sounds like something a 20-year-old might say to another 20-year-old, because I have no worries about getting any negative input from this book. You know what I mean? I think back then, if you know, I was like constantly trying to please people, and I was on that treadmill, you know, of, you know, how, you know, what can I do? And I'm not there anymore. You know, I am thankful that I've gone through the experiences that I've gone through. And I think many people feel that way. You know, we have to be careful. We have a temple within ourselves, and it is our temple, you know, and we need to be protective of it. But I'm also the kind of person that is very willing to put myself out there if it will help someone else. Right. And I've always been that way. It's the influence of my childhood. You know, I remember one of my first jobs was, my mother said to me, there's a girl that lives up the street and she goes to a special camp during the summer. And she lives with her grandmother because her mother and father don't take care of her anymore. And she has to go to camp, and she can't get there by herself, and her grandmother's too old to walk with her. So I told her, you would do that. I think I was like 11 or 12 years old. And this girl had been hit by her father in the driveway with an automobile, and she had a brain injury, and she never recovered from it, you know. And it was my job to walk her to the, you know, and it was like, look at me, I've got a job, I'm taking care of someone, you know. And I felt like my mother trusted me enough to ask me to do that. And yet I made myself vulnerable at that time as well, because, you know, I mean, we walked from our house up to the library, and we walked from our house up to the church to go to confession every Saturday. And now I was being asked to walk this child, you know, this little girl who was probably 6 or 7, you know, and it was my responsibility, you know. And I think, you know, all those kind of things influence us as we grow up.
Yeah, and I'll finish up quickly. The intention is so perfect because it says, be conscious of being a good listener and a receptor for someone's trust. This is also telling us that for ourselves too, listen first, because we're always so quick to jump and say things, and then we regret. And part of that is listening for what am I supposed to do? What is the divine connection here with listening? Listening is really letting something come in and resonate with you. And then, because there are some things you'll know that, all right, this one, I just have to tell this person, I love you, or God loves you, you know, and send them on their way. That sometimes is all that is needed, but you have to listen. So the intention is perfect. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. It's a wonderful reminder. And this book is a blessing. Each and every page, it's all perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
I second that emotion.
I heard it.
Oh, Mary
I'm
Lou.
included. I'm so happy with it. I look at it, and, you know, it's like, who will be touched by this? Who will be blessed?
Everyone.
That's the whole meaning of it.
There's
Lives
a whole.
are being touched. Sorry, Grace.
No, sorry, Teri. Go ahead.
Many lives will be touched by this book, and many are already touched by your book.
Absolutely.
And if you all can hold up your books again, if you all in the audience listening or listening on the replay have not found this book yet, we encourage you to go to Amazon. It is called Rhyming Reflections and Inspired Intentions, Grace and Gratitude by Mary Lou Burdick, who has shared some beautiful insights with us over the last weeks. And today has been very special with you, Mary Lou. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing God's work and listening and following through. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'd
I'd like to invite people to look up Joyce Kilmer's poem, Trees Are Made by Fools Like Me. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. That's one that was my mom's favorite. We talked about my dad's favorite, and that was my mother's favorite. And it's a beautiful poem, and it tells it all, right? Only God can make a tree.
Well, a synchronicity there is this.
Yeah, there you go.
This came from the place in Maine where we did the land blessing. It's called Through the Trees. And it is a beautiful, beautiful place where they help children find their magnificence.
Awesome.
And it's 50 acres of trees, and it's just amazing. If y'all ever get the chance to go in there, it's in Freeport, Maine. And so, yeah, there was the synchronicity, Mary Lou.
Of course.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That was the first poem I ever learned.
Was
I
it, Jean?
think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree who may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair.
Oh.
And I don't remember the rest until the end.
I'm waiting for the rest.
Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree.
Good tree.
So beautiful.
That's beautiful. Well, we are out of time. We encourage you all to look this up if you haven't found it. And if you have found it, keep being blessed by it. Because one thing I've noticed through the years is we change so much, even from day to day. So if you pick up this book again, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, you're going to be different. And the answers are going to be different. The poems may touch you in a different way. And maybe the ones that you weren't resonating with completely, maybe it makes perfect sense then. And just like when I started out asking Mary Lou, how your perspective had changed over the years from that poem that you wrote those years ago. And it's true. We change and we adapt, and then life goes on, right?
Yes.
So keep being blessed, keep staying in your heart. And I just want to ask Mary Lou if you have some ending words that you'd like to leave us with from you, from your book, from whatever you want to share with us.
Teri, you had read when we started these words, and I'd like to read them again. As you reflect and put into action the intentions, may you come to know the one deeper and be brought into the vortex of love. May you love beyond the presence of your angels into guidance and light. May you be witness and serve others with grace and gratitude.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you from my heart. I love you.
Thank you for having me on your show. And I'm so happy to be part of the Soul Food Book Club.
Yeah.
I recommend it to anybody listening.
Thank you. And yes, those of you who have not participated with us, we invite you to do so every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Thank you for being here, and many blessings to all. And we always leave with a
Namaste.
Bye, everybody. Have a blessed day and have an amazing holiday tomorrow.
Ooh, that's right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.